So you're curious and you're ready to check out Punishing Gray Raven. Welcome! 2024 is a great year to jump into PGR, but jumping into a mature gacha game can seem a bit intimidating. This is a comprehensive guide that by the end will make you a PGR expert and help you to get your new PGR account off on the right foot in 2024. In this video, we're going to cover navigation, early game progression, team building and leveling, Gacha and S rank selectors, endgame, and I have a 2024 account starter pack on what you should do for your new account. I'm going to leave chapter timestamps on this video so you can jump back to any of these chapters if you need a refresher in the future. First, let's talk about navigation. Once you complete the tutorial for the game in the first few missions, you will see the main menu, and you might be thinking, what the frick is all this crap? Don't worry, it may seem crazy at first, but let's just take it one button at a time and use each tab as needed. You may not see all of these windows at the current moment depending on your level of your account, but here's a quick overview. In the main battle section, this is where you'll access all of the various battle modes, including the main story, side stories, tutorial missions, farming stages, and challenging game modes. The battle screen is a combination of various windows pulled from the different tabs, including the latest story chapter. Back in the main menu, below Battle tab, you're going to see Missions. This is where you're going to access your daily and weekly missions, and story-based progression missions. Beneath that, you're going to find the Dorm, which is this game's housing system, R&D, which is the game's gacha system, Cub, which is the game's pet system, and Guilds. Along the bottom is Member Selection, which is where you can manage your constructs, Items, which is where you can manage your inventory, Shop, which is the in-game shop, and Top Up, which is the real cash shop. Quickly along the top, you'll also see access to the Battle Pass, a calendar of events, and your inbox for mailed rewards. On the right-hand side here, you are going to see special event windows for currently active minigames and activities or special coding gachas. To the left of Battle though, you'll find a window which gives you access to the latest patch and event screen. This window will update from patch to patch. I'll not be going in depth on this menu in this video. For more details, you can watch my patch walkthrough, which I do for each new patch in Punishing Gray Raven, so make sure to like and subscribe for future content. But now that we've got a general idea of navigation in the game, let's talk about progression. PGR is a gacha game that has an energy system for progression called Serum. While not all modes have energy requirements, most of the things that matter for progression do. Most of the game modes, mechanics, and currency bonuses for PGR are locked behind story progression, so that is going to be your main focus when starting the game. Through various rewards, you will be given these Serum packs. Try and save all of your Serum and Serum packs to get through the story stages and push as far as possible as fast as possible. Try and avoid using these Serum packs until you've exhausted all of your in-game Serum, because as you level up your Commandant level, you will be getting Serum bonuses. This makes pushing the early story content a lot quicker. If you cannot level up and you have fully exhausted your Serum, then you can use the Serum recharges to continue pushing the story. While pushing the story content, you can level your starting units as needed. Further into Punishing Gray Raven, you will need multiple teams for content and or for bonuses in certain game modes, so there's no harm in leveling the starting units for early progression. They'll also help you get acquainted with the game combat and abilities, but we'll cover more details on the characters in the leveling and character section. The story will also be a big source for black card saving in the early game, black cards being the game's main premium currency. This is the currency you are going to be using for pulling on the gacha, but more details on that when we get to the gacha section. Now, if you want to be a sweaty tryhard, you can go through and skip all of the story stages in terms of the actual story that gets read to you, and you can go back and watch them later in your codex. However, we all know you're not going to go back and rewatch the stories in the codex. So I would say for long-term enjoyment of the game, just read the story as you're progressing through it for long-term enjoyment. It does have a bit of a slow start, but later it gets really good. Around chapter 7 or 8 or so, I would say it's worth it, so really take the story in. But as I mentioned, here is a full list of all of the unlocks you can get from story progression. If you want to be really efficient, I would try and push to 5-7 as fast as possible so you can start into Warzone and Pain Cage to try and get black card and currency bonuses as fast as you can. More details on those in the endgame section of the video. 1-6 are novice missions, which will give you a big bonus of materials, so definitely look to clear those. At the same time, PGR also has a guide system. The guide system allows you to come under a more experienced player in the game to progress your account with guide exclusive missions that will give you lots of rewards and XP and really help accelerate your account leveling. Now, these items on screen are what unlock via leveling your account. Border Pact and Golden Vortex are one-time cleared events for black cards. As well as in the Border Pact, once you clear all the stages, you can assign a character that does give them an increase to some of their stat bonuses. Co-op is a boss battle mode where you have a chance to get a 5-star weapon for characters, which can be really helpful in the early game and character building in general. If you don't manage to get lucky from one of the drops, after a certain number of clears, you will be given 5-star weapon shards. You can then use these 5-star weapon shards in the recycle shop to pick the weapon that you want to get. Now, all of the game modes I've just mentioned, you're going to want to work to clear as much as possible, but novice missions, dailies, and weeklies are definitely going to be giving you the most XP to help progress your account. Weeklies are also a great way to be saving black cards, which again don't unlock till 5-7, so definitely push that as fast as you can. But now that we've kind of gone through the game modes and walking through those and what you should target in your early game progression, you're probably wondering about the gacha. What should I do? Who should I pull? Where should I start on all of this? Before we cover that, we need to talk a little bit about team building first. Now, to wrap off the progression side a little bit here, the 3 starting characters in the game are Live Eclipse, Nanami Storm, and Lucia Lotus. All 3 of these characters really are more than enough to clear the story content for a while, especially considering a lot of the story stages will actually give you trial characters to use for them, so you don't even need your own characters sometimes. So you can definitely just look at starting with these characters. But as you get more characters to invest into and new units, you're going to want to start really considering your team compositions. When building a team, you want the golden triangle of classes. That would be your attacker, your tank, and your support/amplifier. The simplified difference between a support and an amplifier, like Live Imperia, is a support character focuses on healing your characters, while an amplifier focuses on increasing your elemental damage. Amplifiers increase the damage of the element that they are a part of. When it comes to team building though, you still want to look at actually keeping your attacker and your tank, because attackers simply just do the highest amount of damage output, while a tank skill gives them the ability to reduce the target's extra damage reduction. So you always want to keep tanks and attackers in there. An example of a team is the now available Fire Meta Team comp, like you can see here. I have Lee Hyperreal as my attacker, Nanami Starfarer as my tank, and Live Imperia as my amplifier. For building a character, you're going to use 6 memories and a weapon and a cub for each character. I'm not going to go in depth about character builds in this video, but for more details on a specific character, you can check out the Grey Ravens website. To raise a character, you're going to need to level them up to the maximum level of 80. You're also going to want to promote them, which is going to be available every 5 levels of leveling the character. You can also look to evolve your character, which is like this game's duplicate system, by getting shards for the character. But you're also going to want to look to level their skills, which is locked behind the character's overall level and their character evolution. What I mean by that is certain skills only become available as you do evolve them to a higher rank. In some cases with characters like Rosetta Rigger, you also have the option to level their leap skill, which is effectively like adding 3 more skills to the character. This is a lot more expensive to level these leap skills, and they do take some more endgame resources, but for characters like Rosetta Rigger and Liv Luminance, it really does elevate the character's skill and ability overall. Quick side note on evolving a character. You can get shards for evolving a character in a couple different ways. If a character is an A rank or a B rank character like Lucia Lotus or Live Eclipse, you can come into the side stories, into the interludes, and clear these stories for the characters, and you have the ability to farm shards for them. You can get up to 2 shards for an A rank character a day. So while it is free to do, it's going to take a decent amount of time. Another area where you can get duplicate shards can also be found in the shop in the voucher exchange. Now this area is limited to only a select few units right now, but more characters are added with future patches. The final area where you can get duplicate shards for a character is in the Phantom Pain Cage. Now in the Phantom Pain Cage, which we'll break down more in a little bit, they have this shop where you can also buy shards for any S rank character you own. You can't get just generic random shards here, only for S ranks you currently have on your account. Now, the amount of shards available here will only ever be enough to take your character from S to double S and not higher than that, but it's still very helpful for progressing a character. In all cases, it is going to take a while to get the shards in a free way to escalate them to a higher evolution, no matter what their rank is, whether that be a base S rank or a base A rank. Back to progressing a character, when you are prioritizing leveling on a new account, you're going to focus on just leveling the character first, focusing on leveling them up, focus on promoting them, and if you can evolve them, but also level up their skills where you can. This is the best because it's a surefire way to guarantee stat increases and the effectiveness of those characters long term. This is also the most cost-effective way because early game memories, like the 3-star memories or even a lot of the 5-star memories, don't really matter for your characters. They're a stopgap to getting the higher 6-star memories that you actually want for characters. So resources are better off put into the character themselves and not the memories until you get the memories you want. We're going to talk a little bit more about memories in the endgame section of the video. Apart from the starter characters, when you're looking to build your first team in PGR, only focus on one team. It's just going to be the most cost-efficient way to get at least a singular strong team before moving on to any subsequent teams. Because remember, long-term, you're going to need multiple teams, so at least have one strong one to start. Now that you've got an idea of kind of how the teams work in Punishing Gray Raven, how you level those characters and use those characters, let's talk a little bit about the Gacha and S rank selectors so you can see the best way to get those characters. The Gacha system, also called R&D or research in Punishing Gray Raven, might seem a little bit confusing upon first glance, but don't worry, it's not that bad. I mean, I made some confusions the first time I played the game, but that's why I'm here to help you. It's not too bad. So we've got 4 different sections that we're looking at. We've got the event, base, target uniframe, and cub. Event is always where you're going to see the newest character to be added to the game. When a character releases, they're going to debut with a 100% chance rate up. Eat your heart out, Genshin stans.
Emotional damage!
The pity as well is also only a 60, which works out to about 15,000 black cards if you have no existing Event Construct R&D tickets. Event Construct R&D tickets are what you actually pull with. You convert black cards to these, and then you can actually use them. But 15k, like a 60 pull pity on a banner, that's 100% rate up. That's great by Gacha standards. Very generous for a Gacha game. Look, it's a Gacha game. Chill. When you're pulling for a new character, only ever pull on the themed event construct banner. That is because while the drop rate for the character is a little bit lower, it is a lower pity at the 60. There is the fate themed construct banner, which will be the same debuting unit. However, the pity for that is between 80 to 100, but it's because the drop rate for the character is a little bit higher. So it's a bit of high risk, high reward. I would suggest, and the general consensus is in the community, is just do the themed event construct so you are guaranteeing it within 60, because you could get up to 100 pulls, more than 1.5 times on the other banner in terms of pity. So just do the themed event construct banner. So that's for new units. Below that on the event banner is the arrival construct banner. The arrival construct and the fate arrival construct banner are the same as the top 2, except it will be for characters that have already released into the game. It also gives you the option to switch between 3 different characters. This is on a rotation, as 3 new characters will come in every few weeks or so. This is a high risk banner because it's only a 70% rate up chance on that character, with the other 30% going to the other 2 characters you can select. So it is hypothetically a way that you can get some older units. I would not suggest it. It would be absolutely heartbreaking to spend over 60 pulls just to actually miss on the character that you want to actually get. There are other ways to get these characters, guys. So that's the event. Switching into the base real quick here, the member target in the base is kind of like your standard banner. This is just permanently here, also exists with a 60 pity. The perk of this one though is that you can actually switch the target A rank, which is really nice if you're trying to guarantee another, substitute unit to fill out one of the teams. You can have that be the guaranteed character, and you can swap that every 10 pulls, so you can look to really fill out your roster by doing that. you pull on this banner with these blue basic construct R&D tickets. They're different from the event construct R&D tickets. Now, when you start out on the game for the first time, you're going to have a special base banner that's going to actually have a research pity of 40 as opposed to 60 to get your first S rank construct. I would suggest really pushing and progressing in the game because you will be rewarded with a lot of these basic construct R&D tickets, and then use those to be pulling on that banner to get to your S rank pity as fast as possible. I would really suggest not using any black cards on the banner to do that. However, probably by the time you get over 30, it might start slowing down a little bit. So in that case, you could maybe use a little bit of black cards just to kind of, squeeze that gap a little bit and get you to the 40 to get you to the pity, but I would not suggest using any more than that. There's still a lot of basic R&D tickets that come. Like, for example, when you hit level 50 on your account for the first time, you are going to get 2,500 basic construct R&D tickets to pull. That's a full 10 pull just for hitting level 50 on your account. So keep that in mind on this banner. In the base section, though, is also where you're going to find the target weapon research, which is where you can pull for signature weapons for characters. Now, this does admittedly only have an 80% drop rate, but all of the weapons are permanently added to this section, so you can pull for any weapon at any time. So really nice that way. You can only pull on the target weapon research with these red target weapon R&D tickets, where on the general weapon research, you do get a blue version of those as well for basic weapon R&D tickets. You don't get to make any selection here. You get these tickets on both, again, by using black cards. Beneath base, we've got the target uniframe banner. Uniframes are a specific type of unit that only is used in a select few game modes and cannot really be used with other omniframes in the game. Omniframes being the other more general units that we've already been discussing. They don't really work together because they do receive a damage debuff. It's basically for lore reasons in the story that they don't really combine together well. So honestly, for a new account in 2024, when you're talking about early game progression, I would basically ignore them entirely. Some people might not like that, but that's the reality. Any game mode that you do need to use a uniframe often gives you trial characters anyway, so there's literally no reason that you need to have any, other than they're pretty cool. The final target banner down here is the Cub target banner. This is like the pet banner where there is going to be a debuting pet along with the debut unit, and that is also going to have a 100% rate up on that character's patch. After the character's patch, you will be able to pull them like the weapon for an 80% rate up. So you're always going to want to try and get these when they go live because, again, 100%. One thing I'll mention here is it is a 20 pity on this, so very cheap to get the pet. And I didn't mention this before on the weapon, but the weapon is also only a 30 pity as well. So not a full 60. Again, suck it Genshin. So that's how the gacha works. One of the other ways to get characters in the game are through S rank selectors. When you start a new account, you're going to get a new player S rank selector, which is going to have a limited roster of characters. The next S rank selector is actually going to be coming in 2 patches from now, along with Lucia Crimson Weave, and that's going to go all the way up to Selena Capriccio. So now we understand navigation, we understand early progression, character leveling, and the gacha. Let's talk a little bit about endgame before we get into my 2024 starter pack. The first thing is back to character progression, is we're going to talk about resonating and hypertuning memories. When you have all the memories that you need on a character, one of the things you can do when training them is you can do something called resonance. Resonance gives you an additional perk and additional stats on that memory as long as it is equipped to the character that you've resonated it to. It doesn't lock the memory to the character, but if you move that memory to another character, they won't get the same buffs. Working through these resonance skills is a real end game part where you're really trying to fine-tune your character's builds overall. After you've resonated a memory, you do also have the option to hypertune them. And hypertuning a memory will also just give them an additional stat increase. This hypertune does not change if you do try and re-roll the substat on the memory. So definitely don't worry about using the hypertunes when you're looking at re-rolling those resonances. Getting a resonance on a character is going to be random when you're using a duplicate memory to do so. However, you can get an item called a resonance memory picker, which allows you to select the specific memory enhancement that you'd like to put on it. They're kind of expensive and tougher to get, but you can't get them. Where can you get those resonance memory pickers? Well, let's talk about Warzone. I briefly mentioned this earlier, but Warzone is an endgame combat mode where you get to go in and go into 4 individual stages a week to try and get the highest score that you can. Each stage is going to be based on a certain elemental type. For example, Laser Alloy gives you a lightning damage increase. You can then go through, battle through all 3 stages to get your final score. With your final score, you're going to get weekly calculations, which you can then get this currency, Warzone Influence. You can use Warzone Influence to purchase the Memory Resonance Material Picker. It is probably the best thing that you can get here, apart from maybe the Leap Wafer Chips as well, but again, that's for Leap skills. Actually, while I'm here, I'm just gonna go ahead and buy this, because it was 80% off. Ooh, the next one's even 70. I'm gonna do that too. You're good to buy these memory resonance pick materials up to about 50 to 33% off. Depending on what stage of the game you're at, you could probably even go farther, but that's up to you. The next endgame game mode that you're gonna start to have access to is the Pain Cage. Pain Cage each week is gonna give you the ability to go in and fight 3 individual bosses. This is a game mode where you're going to need 3 different teams. You'll go in and you'll have progressively harder stages that you can bring your team into, which again is going to give you a final score. Your final total score between all 3 stages is going to give you a weekly ranking. Based on your weekly ranking, it is going to give you a certain amount of rewards of these Pain Cage skulls, as a lot of people call them. They are called the Phantom Pain Scar. A lot of people just call them skulls for simplicity. You can then use, like I mentioned earlier, those Pain Cage skulls to purchase shards for S rank characters. Now, the first time you're playing through, you're only going to have access to the advanced version of Pain Cage. When you get a certain score, I believe it's over 1 million for the first time, you will have access to the ultimate version of Pain Cage, but that's where the whales hang out. So unless you're really ready to start pushing your scores, probably just chill in advance. Next is the Norman Revival Plan, which is again a series of challenge modes, where this is an area where I mentioned earlier, where the characters that you previously level, you can use just their battle power to give you energy to enhance your runs on the various game modes. You'll go into these elimination stages, go through and clear through the combat bosses, which will then progress your farming in the mining section here, which will then give you this weekly currency of this tantalum ore. In the tantalum ore shop, you can then use that for getting cub progression materials. I would hold off on this until you have a cub that you want to actually pour a lot of additional resources into, like Punchy, for example, or Shimmer, like I have with Bianca Stigmata. Now, another endgame piece of content is dorms. Now, admittedly, this is not an endgame piece of content, but it is one that is going to just continue through your PGR journey, where you're going to set up various dorms, create different furniture sets for your characters that's going to make them happy. And when you make them happy, you can get different resources for the dorm shop. And we can go into the dorm shop and you can see what's available here. There's residence permits, which allow you to build more dorms, or these coding sketches that you can get that allow you to farm codings for characters for free. Once you have enough coding sketches, you can convert them and go into the coding shop and purchase a coding for one of your favorite characters. Now, I will admit this is a slow farm. You're not going to be getting these codings super fast, but if you're on top of dorm, you can get them fairly quickly. Now, there's going to be some changes to the dorm shop in a few patches from now, so you're going to want to keep an eye out for that and what items become available. So for now, I would try and focus on saving as many of your dorm coins as possible, unless you're buying the coding sketches or those residence permits to progress it. Another area is the guild. As soon as you have your guild available, you're going to want to join this ASAP. The guild is also going to be helpful because you're going to have access to this challenge stage. And this challenge game mode is going to allow you to fight through a few different battle stages a week and get a different submitted score. Getting the score is going to help you get this United Achievement points, which you can then use in the guild shop. The guild shop, or the bureau shop as it's called in-game, is another area where you can purchase these hypertune materials amongst some other shards for transcendent characters if you happen to get any. On that topic, I will say you will get Kamu as a transcendent character on your account just from leveling, so you don't need to worry about actually pulling for him or any of the other transcendents. You are going to get one by default just by progressing your account. The final thing on the in-game shop is that daily, I've already purchased it, so we can see see it on the sold out section over here, there will be one shard daily that you can purchase for 20,000 cogs. I wouldn't really look at purchasing a ton more with cogs in here, because cogs are the true end game of Punishing Grey Raven, because everything you want to do in terms of progressing a character cost cogs, and then they start running out very quickly when you start raising a lot of characters. All right, are you still here? Are you still with me? I hope so, because now we're going to be getting into the juicy stuff, where we're going to be talking about my 2024 starter pack, what I would do personally if I was to start a new account in Punishing Grey Raven in 2024. Before we get into our 2024 account starter pack, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, guys. This video took a while. It's a lot of information, and I'm trying to make it, helpful, so I would really greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. Moving forward in Punishing Grey Raven, each coming character is going to power creep each character that would be in their role before them. There's not really a ton of constructs that you're going to need that are absolutely necessary long term. There's a few, but not a ton. So as I said, if I was starting a new account in 2024, the first thing I would do is hold off on my S rank selector construct R&D ticket until I have finished pulling on the base construct R&D banner to get my starter S rank character. Then I would use my starter S rank selector to pick somebody else. If on the starting banner I got Live Luminance, or if I got Kamui Tenebrian, I would look at picking the other. So if I got Live Luminance, I would pick Kamui Tenebrian. If I got Kamui Tenebrian, I would pick Live Luminance, because that first S rank selector is limited. If on the starting banner I got somebody else completely random, like Karenina or Nanami, I would say it's definitely more optional on which of the two that you would pick, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. That's really only going to affect your secondary team, because your primary team in 2024 is going to be based around Lucia Crimson Weave. Lucia Crimson Weave is an absolutely busted DPS unit that can actually carry without a full team, but is elevated even more with one. The meta lightning team when Lucia Crimson Weave comes to the game is Vera Garnet as the tank, Liv Lux as a lightning support, and then Lucia as the main DPS. My strategy in 2024 would be to save everything I can for Lucia Crimson Weave to guarantee her weapon, and her cub when they all arrive. While waiting for Lucia, I would look to get Liv Lux on the basic construct R&D banner, because then I would have a lightning support ready for her. After that, when Lucia Crimson Weave comes, we are getting a new S rank selector that goes up high enough that you can get Vera Garnet, which is the lightning meta tank. This would be such a powerful start to a new account. Now, I know some critics might say, well, 2 patches after Lucia Crimson Weave, number 21 Feral Scent comes, which is a lightning amplifier. That is very true. Straight up, she will replace Liv Lux, no question for it. But you'll have a couple months before she even comes, and that you have the time to build her and have her prepared, and you can actually use her on your team. So you're gonna have lots of time to use Liv Lux in the meantime. So I would take all of the tips that I gave in the early progression section of this video, use that to streamline my process to getting that full lightning meta team. Now, to be fair, if you're starting on the day that this video comes out, which is hopefully January 1st, Happy New Year by the way, there is still some time that if you went super hard, you could maybe have enough to pull Lee Hyperreal. I don't know about his weapon or cub, but you could maybe get Lee Hyperreal in the final days at the end of his patch. You could then, if you got Lee Hyperreal, make the case that you would actually take Liv Imperia from the S rank selector to start building out a fire meta team. But you're still going to struggle to try and get Nanami Starfarer in that final slot, or have to use a not as great character in that slot anyway. Which, don't get me wrong, is definitely still usable, but it's not the best. And you also then jeopardize getting Lucia Crimson Weave at that point. So I would suggest just probably skipping Lee Hyperreal this time around on a new account and just going whole hog into getting Lucia Crimson Weave. Now, after you've got your first full team of that lightning meta team, you can then look to start building out a secondary team. This is where you've got some flexibility. With both Liv Luminance and Rosetta Rigger being in the voucher exchange shop, it makes both of those characters way more accessible for new players, and they are still currently the meta support and tank for a physical team comp. So you just have to look at trying to pick up Bianca Stigmata in another way. Probably on that Arrival construct banner, but actually if there was a character you wanted to risk it for, she's not a bad pick. You could also look at trying to build out an ice team around Ayla Kaleido, but the ice team is probably the weakest meta team of all of the meta teams, and you're still going to be looking to try and get 2 older units to fill that out. That being Chrome Glory for the tank, and Lucia Plume for your main attacker, which after playing for a full year, I still don't have either. Depending on how your S-rank selector worked out, and you decided to get Kamui Tenebrian, or you were lucky enough to get him on the basic Construct R&D banner, you could use him as the foundation for a dark team, being your dark tank. You could then bring in Watanabe Astral as your attacker on a dark team, with Vera Rosen as your support. Although a Watanabe Astral is an A rank and so is Vera, they both do a great job. So while that's not going to be the peak dark team, it is definitely viable for a new account. Even if you don't have Kamui Tenebrian, you could still run number 21 as your dark tank. And while that is a full A rank team, it's totally a viable dark team for an early account. But that's it on my strategy for 2024. And there you have it. You're now a Punishing Grey Raven expert. So get out there, Commandant, and help save the world from the punishing virus. Also, if you're a veteran PGR player who happened to just, check out this video and try and correct me, feel free to leave those corrections in the comments down below. If there are any corrections that I think are key or important, or if there's anything that I missed in this video that is of key importance, I'll add them to a pinned comment below this video so you can check out some of those corrections. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.